welcome back to Brew Beer 101. So we're going to do our second brew today. I've got loads of tidying up to do, and we've also got a few things to look at that I've changed in the Beacon Brewster and my old boiler, which we're going to use as a Sparge tank as well. All the grain and everything is all ready to go, so let's get at it. So today we're going to do a Hobson's Time Crier, one of my favourite beers, this one. Absolutely love this. It's one that I find is quite good for converting the lager drinker over to ale. Actually, it pangs a bit of a fizz to it out of the bottle, and it also is nice, dry, crisp, similar to what you expect from a lager. A light colour as well, which tends to scare the lager drinkers away when you've got a dark ale. So a nice light one. The only difference on this one's going to be we haven't got Progress hops, so we've got SARS instead. Couldn't get hold of Progress, so it is what it is. We'll see what it comes out like. So the first changes that I've made to the Sparge tank was obviously this Sparge arm that we made, but it was making this sit on the filter lid, because this lid came with the Brewster Beacon, so obviously that will sit like that on top of the mash tun inside here when we come to Sparge. And I've also got a temperature gauge, just a digital one that we used to use, and that's working. These aren't far out actually, considering they were only cheap. They're within a degree or two, so for Sparge water aiming for 75 degrees, we should be fine for that. So we're going to sort out our Sparge volume in there. Something I did have to change inside the actual Brewster Beacon. So with this, I was struggling to get this to prime. The first time I did it was fine, but last night when I was doing it with soapy water, effectively with the cleaner in it, it wouldn't prime. So what I've done is I've put a little tiny 2mm hole right next to the pump intake. So what that'll do is obviously once it's filled up, that should give the pump a lower point to suck from, and hopefully that'll fill the pump. As soon as the pump gets some juice in it, it'll then start pulling it through the veins. It doesn't matter if that hole blocks up afterwards, because obviously it'll still be pulling through the cutouts in here. We've looked at the Counterflow Chiller. This I've tested as well. That's all ready to go. It's all been cleansed as well inside out. So yeah, we're ready to rock really. Just need to get all my grain and that weighed out, get my water on ready for that. Remember my little black book as well. I made some notes of what we needed to do differently. If you remember, I said always write stuff down. So I'm just going to read these notes real quickly. So Brewster Beacon 40 first juice, don't use bottom filter. So that was that filter mesh which we're now using as a lid. Use 15 litres as start mash volume. Yeah, because normally we do 13 litres, but if you remember, the level on there was quite low. If you haven't seen the first video, by the way, I will put a link up in the top corner so you can click on that. This video will be a bit more of a scan through rather than all the close detail that I did last time. So we'll move on to that. So during the mash, 300 watts. So yeah, I remember that bit. We reduced the power down on the Brewster Beacon down to 300 while we're recirculating at the 66 degrees. Try and maintain 5 litres in the boiler. So that was this water level here, which we need to keep an eye on. Make sure we don't dry boil the element. Dropped to 2400 watts at 98 degrees. That was because our boil was quite vigorous and I was close to having the boil over. So it's definitely worth remembering that. So there we go. So 15 litres in there. We'll start getting that all warmed up, and I'll join you when I'm measuring out. Hopefully the bottom filter that I've made works and we don't end up ruining this whole batch of beer. But let's suck it and see. So there's 15 litres in there. So I'm going to stick the mash tun in. Lower that down. I want the pipes out. All got sanitised. Stick that on there, because that'll stay it away then. Just like that, so don't need that yet. So, power on. And then we want the element on. Hello, Mr. Brewster. So we'll go 73 degrees strike temperature, and we will go for that. So the H is flashing. Away she goes. So lid on now, keep the heat in there. And we'll get on with measuring the grain out. On with the grain bucket. 4,400 grams of pale and just 50 grams of crystal. 50 grams of crystal almost pairs in significance to the 4,400 grams of pale malt. So it's yeah, it's my favourite bucket out of all the buckets. About half the candle tablet that can be chucked in. Keep it to the side away from the element. 1 teaspoon of gypsum, so I'll go and get a teaspoon. To heap or not to heap, that is the question. There's the other half a candle tablet, which we're going to use later on. So it seems a bit excessive on the Sparge waterfront, because it's almost full. Well, 26 litres this is. Why would I have done that last time? Makes no sense. It's way too much Sparge water for what we're going to use. But I've put it in there now, so I'm just going to shut the lid and power up. So this kettle has the thermostat linked out, but this thermodial still works. So I can see the red light on at the moment. If you can see that, the red light heating, and it will go green when it gets to temperature. Now I've already done a dry run. 75 degrees is about 4 on here, give or take a few inches. So always have your sanitised bucket with your stuff that you can just throw in and out of, like I showed you last time. This little thermometer, he fits through the hole where the handle used to be, hence why the handle's not there anymore. And then we can just dangle him in, and he'll go down into the water somewhere near, and I can keep an eye on what the temperature is. So that's literally just got to 73 degrees now, which is our strike temperature. Mash cam. So again, always check with your thermometer. Looking really good. It's not lumpy. It's dry, but it's not lumpy. It levels off nicely. For the mash, we said 300 watts in our black book. Temperature, we want 66. And for time, we want 90, because this is a 90-minute mash. So it's just kicked in on our 300 watts. We haven't quite pulled it down to 5 litres yet. It's getting close though. But if you look in here, we're just starting to see colour come through now, and a little bit of liquid sitting on top of that mesh plate. So you can see there's lots of particulates in it, because it hasn't run clear yet. So we'll just keep an eye on that. So we're 10 minutes into the mash. It's maintaining the 66 degrees perfectly like it did last time. And interestingly, it must be the amount of veins I cut, slots I cut in the filter. But even with that valve fully open, it's just maintaining about 6.5 litres in the bottom of the vessel. So we haven't even got to throttle that valve this time, like we did last time. And inside now, it's already starting to look a lot more clear, and that's in 10 minutes. So far so good. Don't count your chickens till they've hatched. 24 grams. So there's 12 of EKG and 12 of Fuggles in there, and the same in that pot there as well. Sparge tank as well is just at 50, so I've just knocked that off because we're a bit ahead of schedule with that. So I think I'll put that on when we've got half an hour to go. So in 15 minutes I'll put the Sparge tank boiler back on. So while I've got 15 minutes, what I'll do is I'll go and sanitise the fermenting vessel that we're going to use for a second time today, and the bubbler as well, just to make sure, just to be safe. So we're coming up to the half an hour mark soon, until the end of mash time, and you can see we're still just level with that mesh. It would have been nicer to be a bit higher on that mesh, just so we could have a look at it. But as long as it's on the mesh, by hook or by crook. It's funny the lid goes clear after you open it, isn't it? So just pop my Sparge tank back on. It's at 49.8, so still around 50 degrees. It's been off for 15 minutes. So obviously we're trying to get that up to 75, ready for sparging. Still at about 8 litres in the bottom. And as you can see, we're still, the level is bang on where that plate is. So we're just getting enough through the mash
for the perfect mash. Brewster by Brevolution.
Before the sparge tank gets too hot to handle as well, I'm just going to gently put in my gypsum. I'm going to give that a stir now, but I need 2 hands. Just how clear that is. I mean, it's beautifully clear already.
So just by chance, obviously we haven't made it to the end of the brew yet, so that filter piece I made might screw us over yet, but it is looking like the solution's worked, certainly for the mash anyway, because we're only 24 minutes away from glory on that.
So I'll join you at the end of the mash when we're ready to start sparging.
3 minutes left on the mash,
and as per magic, 75.4 on the digital reading, it's gone into warm mode, so it's just going to maintain that temperature now. I've given it a stir, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it all the way to the top straight away. And we can start sparging. May as well turn this boiler off because we're finished with that. There's a nice little bit of water level on top of that. It's good. And you can hear it coming through the bottom as well. Okay, so I've lifted that off now, and we've hit the 28 litre mark. And that's just to allow for expansion when we warm up. So now we need to start the boil. So about 85 degrees. Starting to see a lot of hot break already. Touché. Should be alright now.
So we're at the 60-minute mark, so half an hour into the boil. Level check, we're only just below 30 litres, so I don't think I need to top the boiler up on this half an hour interval. So in goes our first lot of hops. So let's hope they don't block that filter. So there's 30 minutes left on the boil. Next addition of hops going in. So this again is the Kent Goldings and Fuggles.
And also on the level,
I'm at about 27 litres, so allowing for error of a couple of litres will take us down to 25, and then allowing another 2 litres for shrinkage in the next half an hour. And when it cools down, I think it's probably worth putting a litre in just to be safe, so I'm going to put a litre in from the kettle.
so there's our 2 5-gram additions. I've put the Protoflock in this one so I don't forget it, and I'll put that one at the front, so I know that one's next.
So last 15 minutes, 5 grams and the Protoflock. So a bit of fizz off this one because of the Protoflock. So it's the last 2 minutes. Last of the hops. So again another 5 grams of SARS, because we ain't got no progress. And there we are. Flame out. So this needs to sit and settle now for 15 minutes. So while we wait for that 15 minutes to pass, I'll set up the Counterflow Chiller and we'll get it chilled into the fermenting vessel.
So we're running really slowly out of the pump. You can just see it starting to make its way now back into the vessel. So the reason why we're doing that is obviously while it's super hot and still at 90 odd degrees, it'll be cleaning the inside of the, sorry, let's take that back. It's already clean because I've already cleaned it and ran sanitizer through it, etc. But just to be sure, running hot fluid through will sanitize it, super sanitize it. And we're running really slow with that valve just cocked without the hose on the connection yet.
So we're just letting it all settle down. So now we've done that, what I'm going to do is crack this valve here with the hose cold water supply. You can see the cold water heading into it. We've also got a valve up there to regulate the flow on the way out. So I'm just going to slowly open this. And slowly open the outlet. So that's nice and cold now. So we'll restart the pump. And then just open this valve a little bit. So just to show you how effective a counterflow chiller is, you can see we haven't used much water at all yet. We're not even up to the hose pipe itself yet. And this now should be nicely chilled. So as you can see, with one pass of the counterflow chiller, it's coming out about 22 degrees. So obviously I can get that lower, but I can't adjust the valves while holding the camera. So I'll adjust the valves a little bit more now to try and get it a little bit colder. So we're just about to drop off the rate tube on the side, off the glass, off the sight glass. Still going. We're over 20 litres. Let's hope we do get the 23 that we was aiming for. Otherwise I wish I'd put that extra litre in with the kettle. But we're getting there. It took about not even 10 minutes. That's it. We're actually ever so slightly above the 23. Managed to fill the jar as well while that was filling, so we can do a hydro test in a minute. But first of all, let's go and get this whisked up and get the yeast pitched so we can put the lid on to keep it safe. Woo. Some people prefer to stir theirs in. I always just like to sprinkle on top of the foam, let it hydrate as it falls back into the brew. Just a good sprinkle round. So we're using Sapphire SO4, same yeast I always use for all my beers, just because it's a really good effective yeast at hitting your final gravities. So the other thing obviously is the SG or OG, original gravity. So we can let it drop, give it a spin. It's just above 1040, it's like 1042. Do a taste test on it. It's going to be hoppy, this one is, compared to the last one, because this is more of a hoppy type drink. It smells a lot more hoppy as well. Woo! Yeah, that's going to be crisp. So yeah, that is tasty. Oh, could almost drink it like that. So other than the mess that I've got tidy up, that's the end of today's video. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Obviously, if you do want to see some more content from me, don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. And if you did like this video, hit the like button. And we'll catch you on the next video from Brew Beer 101. Cheers.